One of the things we've sort of been robbed of over the last couple of years, really, it's like 17, 18 months since COVID hit, is the ability to go to special events, to attend things where you get to look sharp and feel sharp and see your friends and celebrate and enjoy. And it's time for that again. It's time to feel sharp again. It's time to look sharp again. And that's why you should check out Indochino, because Indochino offers completely custom-fitted suits, shirts, casual wear, and more surprisingly, it's the price. You won't believe how great the pricing is. Every piece is made to your exact measurement, and you can customize every detail. We're talking about the fabric, the lapel, the monogram, statement linings. You can create a suit that fits you and fits your style, and this is important, fits the event. And the best part is, Indochino suits start at $399 with all customizations included. You can check out Indochino, which is now open at Nordstrom stores, select ones across the country, giving you even more ways to get great fitting, personalized clothing, and, of course, great prices. Find your nearest location at Indochino.com. And right now, you can get $50 off any purchase of $399 or more by using the code SDP. That's $50 off a purchase of $399 or more at INDOCHINO.com. Promo code SDP.
SDP, the Steve Dangle Podcast, with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Let's go!
Second show in our brand new studio, and we're so excited to welcome our first guest digitally. Could it be a better guest? It's the hockey guy.
The hockey guy. Hey. How you doing, dude?
No raised expectations or anything.
No.
None. The cat's up, though.
Yeah, what's your cat's name?
That's Shadow. Normally Bear is here. I knew that if people watch this or from the channel, I thought about having all my jerseys in the background. I thought, no, it has to be the cats in the background or people are going to complain.
Yeah, you gotta. So you have a lot to consider, right? Or people will complain. We were just getting into all your Flyers gear, and so what was the initial outfit that you had to throw off? Because
I had
way.
my Canucks jersey on, but I realized looking at it on camera, I'm like, okay, so you can see through the Canucks jersey. You can see I'm wearing Flyers underneath, so that doesn't work. So I had to just wear the Flyers t-shirt instead because I've had people say that shirt showing through this one. So what are you doing? And yeah, so
You couldn't possibly.
It's
How
amazing
dare you.
the heat you take for giving away content. Like
Right.
it's unbelievable.
It's hours of entertainment for free, and people still find a way to complain.
this is true.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, for anybody that doesn't know the hockey guy, and listen, it felt like every person that listens to our show watches you. And so for anybody that has not heard of Shannon, it says on Wikitubia, which is actually a website that you started in 2015. Is that true?
Yes.
And it says essentially, here's the rundown. I'm not sure if you've ever read this. Shannon Skeins, better known as the Hockey Guy, is a Canadian YouTuber known predominantly for his daily videos on the National Hockey League. He owns over 250 jerseys from various teams and does a yearly countdown of his favorites. His videos do attempt to provide unbiased views of all teams, although he admits that he is a fan of the Canucks, Stars, and Bruins. True?
Oh,
Yeah, that's all accurate.
All accurate.
Canucks Bruins is tough.
Yeah, 2011 was tough. 2011 was very tough.
Who did you give the edge to?
I wanted the Canucks to win, but since I knew a lot of Canuck fans that were before that final, they were like, "Oh, we're going to destroy the Bruins." And I'm like, "Okay, now they're pretty good. No, we're the best." And I'm like, "Okay." The one that really made me laugh when people kept saying, "Well, EA Sports, they simulated the cup," and I'm like, "No, you lost
Oh
me to
no.
EA Sports."
I mean, that's fun, but it doesn't tell you anything.
That's not going to tell you how it actually works out. So, yeah, it was kind of a tough time. And then I couldn't wear a Bruins jersey locally for at least a year.
I like to think that moratorium's still on. I don't think you can.
It depends where I am.
Really? Okay, so you have to tell, like, which parts of Vancouver is okay, and then which parts.
Well,
is
no,
not.
like I've gone to Vancouver, Boston games, and it's funny because if let's say the Canucks are nowhere near a playoff spot, and the Bruins are it's a really important game for the Bruins. Well, I will say, okay, I hope the Bruins win tonight, and I don't mind wearing Bruins gear to the Canucks game, but that doesn't necessarily go over all that well with some of the fans. So,
And I bet they recognize you.
they would now, but they didn't say 4 years ago the first time that I wore Bruins gear to a Canucks game. So
You're a braver man than I.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't think I would do that.
So
I remember there was a guy right behind me that was about 6'5", wearing a Bruins jersey. I'm like, can you just hang out with me tonight? Because
He was one of the healthy scratches. Yeah.
So I'm so curious about your career because, I mean, you're not a teenager on YouTube. You're,
Hey.
You're well, Steve essentially was when he started, and you started in 2015, and your channel's blown up, and people absolutely adore you. But did you come onto YouTube with a goal in mind, and what was your career beforehand? Like, I got to know everything.
I worked in manual labor for like 20 years. So I think one advantage that I have in doing this at my age is that I understand all the crappy jobs out there. I see some of the younger YouTubers that hit it big. I think sometimes they're a little bit out of touch, but like, I know, like, I appreciate everything that I've got. Like, when I started doing the YouTube videos, it was just a way of blowing off steam after a long day of work. And then I monetized a video and I made like 10 cents on it.
Ooh.
And like I said to friends of mine at work, I said, I made $1 on YouTube yesterday. And they're like, yeah, but you made $100 working here. And I was like, yeah, but I made that dollar not working here.
Right.
Right.
I like that dollar because if I can make that $20, that's an hour's, almost like a little bit over an hour's work. So I thought it was a fun hobby. And I never intended for it to blow. I'm still surprised it's blown up. I'm still thrown off when people approach me in public. So it's still weird.
So Steve has like certain peaks over the course of his channel of where you kind of exploded. It was like 7-2 Nashville, David Ayers. Like, there's a course of videos that made you grow. On your channel, what are the big videos that really made you take off?
Big videos that made me take off. I know when Vegas came in, there was a lot of the Vegas stuff because, and then with Seattle coming in, that really helped this summer. I try to make sure that the content is friendly for people who are getting into hockey. Mm-hmm. I've found that there's a lot of gatekeeping in hockey, so people may be embarrassed to ask really simple questions about the game, like stuff we take for granted. Mm-hmm. A new fan of the game might be, well, I don't understand offside. I don't understand. Okay, so icing. So how does that work? And they may not feel like they're comfortable asking people, but I try to make sure I don't talk down to them. And the expansions definitely helped. Stanley Cup Finals definitely helped. And if a team like Carolina's going on a run, I might be one of the few channels that's covering it because everybody covers, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. They've got a lot of coverage. So I think it's kind of a mix of things. Mm-hmm. I know that draft time and free agency, though, the channel just explodes. That's the week that my wife and I are locked down because we know it's going to be really busy.
So I have a couple things there. One, I'm jealous of you that you started in 2015. I have no regrets about my career, but I was doing a deep dive on some of my stats Jesse just brought up. The first year I made $1,000 was 2014. I started in 2007. So I was making nothing off my channel.
And I don't know what happened. I absolutely, honestly, I have no idea. And it's really weird to me. I know we were down in Disneyland last January, and I thought, okay, well, I'm in Disneyland. I'm in California. Nobody's going to know who I am. So I'm walking around all Jedi'd up with my lightsaber. Yeah. And some guy points and goes, hey, you're the hockey guy. And I'm like, what? I'm in Disneyland. Like, Chewbacca's behind you. What? No, So, yeah, that really threw me off.
Did you actually dress up and go? Because I desperately want to go so bad. Oh, yeah. And you went.
When I went to Disneyland, I got the big expensive experience with the lightsaber, and my wife's made me a whole Jedi outfit. So yeah, I nerded out. And even then it was, oh, you're the hockey guy. Seriously, I'm not.
Yeah. No, I'm the Jedi guy. Excuse me.
Yeah, today. I am.
Well, the thing I think that is so, did you want to add up?
Well, yeah, because you mentioned your wife, and I'm jealous of you from a content creator standpoint because you fire off content like a bazooka, just really. So much. So can you explain a day in the content creation of the hockey guy?
So right now, because it's the off season, I'll usually have a couple of boards ready for the morning after. So right now I've got a Boston playoff video ready. I'm going to do a video on Sandus Ozolinch.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a fun name to say. So I'm like, I've got to do a video on Sandus Ozolinch.
And he was
I've
great.
already done a video on Urbe, so it's a lot being connection. And then from there, I'm just I babysit all of my social media. I make sure that well, my wife does a lot of that too. And then I'm just making sure there's a news video if I need it. I've always got series going, and part of that too was that when I was meeting people, and especially in Las Vegas, it really opened my eyes to how widespread the audience was. There were a lot of people telling me that there were people going through health problems, people going through depression, that said my daily videos really helped them. So that's why I don't take a day off. That's why I make sure I'm making enough content, to make sure that I'm satisfying every fan base too. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Flyers fan, there should be a video on the channel where Flyers are discussed, during the off season, at least once a week kind of thing, or, somewhere once every 10 days. So it's me trying to balance. I mean, like, we had to get the whole jersey racks all fixed up. We put up brand new racking.
Wow.
Almost a month ago. Yeah, and there's and then behind there's just as much.
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
I'm like, and so I'm doing a jersey countdown, and this year I was like, okay, so how many do I do? And so I'm doing all 485.
How many
that I have?
Jeez.
So
YouTubepedia or whatever I just came, they said you had 250 plus, not 450.
It's at least double.
Wow.
It's at least double, because I've also got I've got geeky jerseys for my other channel, which is like Star Wars and Doctor Who and all that other stuff. So yeah, I don't even count those. That's on my other set.
This is the thing that, the thing I love about you, Shannon, and is that there's this is instant feeling of not that I know you, but that I know you, or that I know that we'd get along. And I think that's I can understand why your channel's blown up, because you go through and you read the comment sections, and it's like everybody talks to you like they're your close personal friend. And what you're attempting to do with this YouTube channel, and successfully doing, is mind-blowing, because when you look at how a sports network is run, they tend to focus on key markets that generate the most, either stories or they're the biggest, right? So in the case of the NHL and in Canada, obviously Toronto gets the lion's share because, there's a third of the population's in the Golden Horseshoe. It's huge here. Montreal is Montreal. We know they're a huge story. But Edmonton gets a lot because they're always sort of in the news for the wrong reasons, and they have the best player on earth. And I feel bad for cities like Winnipeg. Ottawa's always in the news when Eugene talks, but other than that, you kind of feel bad because there's so much good happening there. Even Vancouver sometimes gets left in the dust, which is really unfair. And so what you're doing, and you look at American networks in basketball and football, they're focused on LA, Miami, New York, Chicago. You're trying to go after everybody all at once, which even the big guys, ESPN, TNT, TSN, Sportsnet, they don't do that. And so they don't do that to the same level. So I have to say, full marks. I don't even know if I have a fucking question. It's just like, it's amazing. It really is.
What's the strategy behind that? How do you do that?
Well, it really was a matter of me saying, okay, so if you are a fan right now, like I know as somebody who I've always liked the Dallas Stars, Minnesota North Stars, sometimes it's hard for me to find news regarding the Dallas Stars and Minnesota North Stars. And when I was starting out, I thought, there are underserved markets. So while I make less money off of a video talking about Dallas or Carolina or Arizona, unless it's about Arizona moving, those ones do very well. But if it's about Arizona's day-to-day stuff, it doesn't do that well. But the way I see it is I'm converting subscribers, and it's more likely that people are going to say, hey, so this guy's actually talking about our team too. Mm-hmm. So when the channel was taking off and I started watching more hockey, I realized too that I had to watch every team equally. So during a regular season, I might be a Canucks fan, but I don't watch them more than anybody else. So I make sure I'm watching every game as much as I can, following all the storylines from the games. So while I'm watching, I've got my phone loaded up. I've got, people telling me on Discord if stuff's going on too. So I try to consume as much as I can from every team equally.
Wow.
And I know your subscribers love you very much because they will often go to my channel and tell me I'm not you. Which every time I look in the mirror, I go, still not Shannon.
Yeah.
Got it? Still Steve. No, because I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll be frank. There was a long time where, because of reading those comments, I thought you didn't like me.
Oh yeah. See, I had to. There was at one point, it was like this. So I'm really into Cobra Kai right now, and it sort of felt like my subscribers were one dojo and they were going over to other channels to pick fights, and I actually had to make a video at one point saying, "Okay, guys, knock it off."
Right.
Like, I know you guys went to this channel or that channel. Stop. That's not me. I don't approve of any of that. I think it's ridiculous when channels are all feuding with each other and creating drama. So knock it off. So I would tell them, I don't want to see you on Steve's channel. I don't want to see you on Post. I don't want to see you guys on any of those channels, because they're working hard. They're in the same sphere, sure, but just, if you like my content, fine. But that's it. Don't go around making trouble.
I'm just trying to picture you in an actual argument with Coach Jeremy, just two really angry guys, two really easy to rise, hot tempers, They freak out after every Leafs loss, for sure. No, I'm very glad.
But part of it too is that I'm older. It's sort of like, as a Canuck fan, I know there's Canuck fans that don't like me because my attitude is basically, I'm going to die before they win a Stanley Cup. But that's 40 plus years of watching them where I'm like, they're going to die before I win a Stanley Cup. It's not that I'm a downer. It's just, this is reality. I've accepted it. They will never win a Stanley Cup as long as I'm alive. I'm the problem. So
it's good to know that we're in the same boat. We're the exact same. We believe the same thing, right?
But then people will be like, you're always so down on the Canucks. No, I like the Canucks. I really do, but I don't think they're ever going to win because I'm so used to watching them. There's only so, like I always say in videos, there's only so many times you can watch the movie Titanic before you realize the boat's not going to miss the iceberg.
Which one of us charges who for the therapy session here?
This is good. It's nice to know we're not alone.
Who invoices who? Oh my God, man.
I watch the Canucks in the playoffs. So, teams I cheer for in the playoffs. I used to do the live reactions during the games, and people would be upset because the Canucks would allow a goal, and I'd go, Yep. They'd be like, you didn't even react. And I'm like, because I kind of expected it. So, all right. So they lost. So there you go. I didn't even get a reaction out of him. Yeah, because I expected it. It's 40 years of watching them. That's about right.
I think you have found an inner peace that the man sitting to my left, your right, could potentially maybe consider. Because, Shannon, when I watch a game with Steve, and Jesse will back me up on this one, yeah, I've seen him throw his phone. Over game 3 of the season. He's so pent up and built up, and you're like, well, what happens.
The last time I did that was 2011 Stanley Cup Final, Vancouver, Boston, and it was Game 6, and Boston beat the hell out of them, and I lost it. And I remember my girlfriend at the time asking me, "Why are you so mad?" And I said, "Because they lost it tonight. They will not win Game 7. They're done. That's it." And I was throwing stuff. I was screaming the whole bit. I was so mad at Game 6 because that was the Canucks' chance to win the Stanley Cup, and I felt like they completely blew it. And that was really, really tough for me because I like Boston, of course. That's I cheer for Boston, but I really desperately wanted to see Vancouver win that Stanley Cup, and I wanted Luongo to get that Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
because this market was terrible to Roberto Luongo. And sort of reminds me of Boston fans now with Rask, but it was so hard. And I think that was the game that kind of broke me, where after that, it was kind of like, okay, I can't get emotionally invested like that again because they're just going to let me down. So I don't think Steve's got there yet, unless the Montreal series did that.
I don't think so.
No, not quite.
So.
Not quite. So with today's team, which we are, you talk about teams that we're disproportionately obsessed with. That's us and the Canucks because they're fascinating. I could see a world where they're very good. I could see a world where they're very bad. There's so much in flux, it seems. They have a GM who loves his phone.
July 1st.
On July 1st and never, ever any other time. What do you make of this current squad?
It really could go either way. I mean, if you told me right now, if you said, hey, so they're going to finish 7th in the Pacific, they're going to struggle, I wouldn't be that surprised. But on the other hand, because the Pacific is and whether this is reality or perception, is perceived as weak, they could finish as high as 3rd. I don't think Edmonton or Vegas are catchable for Vancouver. I think they're going to be the top 2. But a lot of it's going to depend on Ekman Larson, where they're figuring he's going to be a number 1 again. I don't really see that. I watched him a lot in Arizona last year, and I even kept saying in reviews, I'm really glad the Canucks didn't get OEL, because he's just not OEL anymore. And it's just, Chychrun was the one that was really keeping that blue line together in Arizona. So I've got concern. I love Garland. The one voice in the back of my head, and being Toronto fans, you'd hear this too, is when you're looking at a team's put together and you go, okay, there's the skill. Is there enough sandpaper? Is there enough here that when the games get really physical, they can answer the bell? And I'm not sure that the Canucks necessarily have that. That's where I have concern. And of course, the blue line, it feels like Benning went out and signed everybody. Mm-hmm. Similar to what, and Toronto does this too, right? Where Dubas will just, here's 8 guys, and then he walks out. Here's 8 new guys. But I don't know if there's a blue line there that's solid enough for Vancouver that they end up finishing 3rd. It is really, really unpredictable this year.
What Dubas tends to do, and I don't know if it's like this in Vancouver, here's 8 guys who might as well just share a jersey. Because
it's the 4th liners, it's 3rd pairing, it's for instance Luke Shen. I like Luke Shen, as long as they don't overplay him, which was a problem they had with Jordy Ben. When Jordy Ben, they ended up overplaying him. Is Hamonic a top 4 is a question that people ask a lot. I don't know.
Is Tyler Myers?
You know what? Myers drove me absolutely insane with all the penalties against Minnesota in the qualifying round last year's playoffs, but this year I thought he was better. I don't know. I'm not sold on that blue line. I was fine with Edler leaving, but we'll see. Like Pullman, it feels like might be a bit high, but again, it depends on, then the analytics crowd will say no, he did well. Morris, he had problems when he wasn't on his pairing. So yeah, I'm optimistic, but fingers are definitely crossed on that one.
You brought up something, and I want to go back to it. Roberto Luongo. And it's funny because I don't think I've ever seen, I know the Sedins had a ton of people with jerseys, but outside of Vancouver, which is where I've spent the majority of my life, the Vancouver Canuck jersey I see the most is Roberto Luongo's. And I'm curious about your thoughts about his time there, because, you wanted him to get a cup. You said specifically because the market was so terrible to him. Was it the fans? Was it the media? What happened? What is that?
There was a lot of okay, the Canucks could win a game 3-2. And the complaint would be, well, that second goal, he should have had it. I'm like, okay, seriously, he made 25 saves. So people would focus on, he did allow a goal on the first shot often enough that it became a topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. And once he signed that huge contract, the expectation became, well, if we lost the game, that's because of him. So I was always having arguments, this is way before I had a channel, with people where I'd say, well, no, the defense in front of him was crap. Like the series against Chicago, right? Chicago lights up Luongo. But almost every shot Chicago had was right between the hash marks. Vancouver's shots were almost all from the blue line or from the outside. So you're comparing apples to oranges. Crawford looked great because Vancouver wasn't getting those prime shots. Chicago was just teeing off from in front of the net. And because of Luongo's contract, the expectation was he would stop everything. And I always thought that was unfair. And it does remind me of the same argument I have with Boston fans, where Tuukka Rask can have 6 or 7 really good games in a row and they'll still wait. And then he has that one bad game and they go, see, guy sucks. He's a bum.
Boston fans told us exactly that when we were down there. What was it, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
We didn't know them.
And we're like, you're the goalie you hate is better than the goalie we love.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was also our goalie at one point.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that except for every episode.
So there's so many things I want to ask, but I want to ask from an outsider's perspective with the Toronto Maple Leafs. What is it? What player are we lucky to have that we don't appreciate on the same level as Roberto Luongo?
right now, I would say that the amount of hate that Mitch Marner's had in the offseason is bloody ridiculous. I have had so many people I've had saying, well, he didn't have a goal. Well, he's not there to be he's the passer. The guy that's supposed to be scoring the goals is Matthews. Nylander's supposed to have the goal scoring. Like, Marner's the guy doing the setups. And what I saw in the playoffs, I thought Marner was playing relatively well. They couldn't bury it. But I think the amount of hate Marner gets, and it's kind of the same thing, I think. I think his cap hit eats into it. I think if his cap hit was lower, maybe we'd hear it less. Mm-hmm. Marner's fantastic. I have a Marner jersey. If he's ever available, I would be quite happy to see him on any team I cheer for. He is absolutely one of the best passers in the National Hockey League. And I'm stunned. And then even Riley, Riley's UFA next summer. And I see people going, just let him go. We can replace him. With who? Where? How? I've always laughed at fans. They're like,
don't look at me,
Adam Wild.
All I'm saying is we can't re-sign him. We don't have the money, so you better move him so you can find something back.
Adam's not saying let him walk. He's saying,
I'm saying, like don't let him walk away like you did with Gardner. Gardner's less so, but like JVR and Bozak and all these other guys who just walked in, then you just don't. Now you have negative value. That's my point, right? Everybody thought I hated Riley.
I agree with that. But the idea that he just sucks and he's easily replaced because of the advanced stats saying whatever they say, that I don't. Riley's a really good defenseman.
Okay. So then what is the most annoying thing about Leaf fans on the whole?
Ooh,
if there was a complaint, number one, and I'm sure there's a complaint list that's 20 or 30 pages long. What's the most annoying thing about dealing with Leaf fans, talking to Leaf fans, other fans of other markets complaining about Leaf fans? What's your perception?
Being on the same planet.
Yeah.
I think with Leaf fans, I think because there's so many of them, I think that it's a really vocal minority that ends up making others look bad. The ones that, and I get a kick out of them, are that, Freddie Anderson would have a good week and they'd be like, see, he deserves the Vezina and we're going to win the cup. Okay, settle down. And then a week later, Freddie Anderson's had a couple of bad games and they're like, that's it, we suck, we're dead. We're dead. We should just go for the number one draft pick. There's no in between. And it just feels very reactionary. But I think with Leaf fans, I think it's just there's so many of them, because I see that in a lot of fan bases anyways. I know I'll segue that into Montreal, in that, a couple weeks ago I did a season preview for Montreal, and I said I want to see Kotkaniemi have more offense and a little more consistency, and some Montreal fans were saying I was too harsh in my comments. Those same fans, when Carolina signs that offer sheet, go, well, he sucks, he's a bum anyways, let him go.
Yep, seen a bunch of that.
Yeah.
So, it's that overly reactionary side of it that I think we see with Toronto fans. And the one thing I have to say too that's always funny is I'll see people saying, well, I'm a Leaf fan, but you're a Canuck fan, what do you know? No, you can't troll the Canucks, because we do that. That's
same. Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely.
No one hates the Leafs more than Leaf fans.
Yeah,
honestly.
You think you hate the Leafs? I cheer for them.
Yeah. And shit, I think that's so great. And again, that's the most you answer that there could be to something like that. Because if I ask that in Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Winnipeg, it doesn't matter. Or any of the American cities, they go, you guys are just a bunch of assholes. And what you did is you actually broke it down and was like, well, here's why you come across as assholes. I don't want to call you one, but it's sort of, and that I really appreciate. And I think that's the magic of you as a personality, is that you're able to kind of break it down. Okay, let's take the emotion out of it for a second. Everybody calm down. And it was a real and measured and completely reasonable response.
How dare you?
Because I know a lot of Toronto fans that aren't crazy. So, it's funny because my stepdaughter, who could have picked any team in the world, and she's a Leafs fan, and I'm like, oh, you poor thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, do you know the pain that? But that's her call, and that just shows I have no influence on the children whatsoever.
Which I love. That's funny.
Every time Boston's playing Toronto, she'll be like, "Go Toronto!" And I'm like, "You're doing this. Why don't you put on a Boston jersey? Why are you,
Why are you doing this?" Yeah. So you cover everybody. I want to know who has you the most intrigued heading into this season. It could be because they're good, they're bad, they're interesting.
Seattle's going to be one heck of an interesting team, just as a first year team because of the Vegas effect of everybody's going to have greater expectations on an expansion team. The one I'm interested in is Columbus, because I know they dump off Seth Jones. I know they traded out Cam Atkinson. I think they got good value for Seth Jones. I think their blue line is pretty good. If their goaltending holds up, I think they're going to stay in some games, and I think they could surprise some people, because they did it a couple years ago too, where people were like, "Oh well, Columbus is dead because Panarin left and Bobrovsky left," and they still made the playoffs. So Columbus, I think, is potentially going to break my bracket for where I had everybody in the regular season, and I think they could surprise some people because I don't think they're really a bad team on paper.
I also don't think they're done. It's too quiet.
Okay, well, okay, so it's way too early prediction from the two of you. What happens before the season starts?
They have to trade Eichel, don't they?
Yeah, I think Frege on 31 Thoughts mentioned them, and I guess by virtue of they're the Columbus Blue Jackets, you know, it's way more fun to discuss Eichel going to Montreal
Or New York.
But exactly, I think Eichel could end up as a Blue Jacket because we've been talking about who their number one center is going to be for too long. I really do think that could happen.
So is it Laine going the other way? Like, what do they give up?
It'd have to be picks, prospects, maybe Chinahov. Yeah, I don't think Buffalo's going to get value because of the neck issues with Eichel. And then it's a matter of finding a team whose doctors either allow him to have the surgery or talk him out of the surgery that he wants to have. And I would think that has to happen before the trade.
I think everyone's dug in. I think he's going to get his surgery come hell or high water.
Okay. All right. This is good. I like this.
Yeah.
I'm, that's a fascinating story. And the agent switching and all of that stuff too with Eichel is very, very interesting. Shannon, I want to know what your super interesting story that no one's paying attention to, I guess, besides Eichel to Columbus. What's the story that's really got you captivated in the NHL that you're not really seeing enough coverage for?
You know what's kind of funny is that Ottawa had an excellent second half of the season, but because the perception was that the North sucked, nobody's really paid attention to it since the season ended. I think Ottawa's got a really exciting young team, and I think they could be a lot of fun to watch. And then what are they going to do about their building? Like, we haven't heard anything in a while, and we know that Melnick's not happy with where they're at and that they need something downtown. And I think while we're all talking about Arizona, I think Ottawa definitely needs to do something with their building. They need to do something, and not just tarp off seats either. But, just it is interesting because they have this really exciting young team. And then the question mark becomes, and I think we're going to find out with Tkachuk and Batherson, are they going to spend the money now to keep that core together that they weren't willing to do 5 years ago?
Yeah, because that Tkachuk, that's not done yet. And I think they were talking about it this morning in local radio there up there. It's like, is he going to show up at camp? I think Sean Simpson was talking about that. And it's like,
there's a lot.
Well, and so my question is, you go to camp without a contract. Are you insured? What happens if you get an injury?
I'm sure you would be. I'm pretty sure you would be.
Okay.
Because guys on tryouts would be, right?
Right, okay.
Oh, yeah.
But then what if you get hurt? It's hockey. It's chaos. Anything can happen. You can snap anything. You could get a puck to the mouth. Like, whatever it is. Like, you can... I can't see him stepping on the ice without a contract.
NHLPA is pretty useless, but I don't know if they're that useless.
Okay.
As long as you're in the league, they seem to care.
Right.
Once you're out of the league, not as much.
Can I ask about the biggest story right now? What do you think happens with Kotkaniemi and Carolina? Does Montreal match? How does that end?
I don't know how Montreal could let him go right after Danault left. Danault left, and one of the selling points was Kotkaniemi's going to step into a top center spot. They can't have Jake Evans as their number 2 center. So I don't see how they can't without having a backup. And so, of course, that's why people speculate that Bergevin would let it go and then maybe sign an offer sheet on Pettersson. But he's already going to have cap problems if they sign Kotkaniemi.
Right.
So it's going to be messy one way or the other. And of course, you can take draft picks. You get the 1st and 3rd in exchange for Kotkaniemi and use those to maybe bolster your center spot. But I don't know. Montreal is going to be interesting too, because without Weber and with the downgrades they've had, I just don't see how they make the playoffs this year.
And so that's super interesting, right? That's a story that's sort of under the radar of like they certainly are riding a high, and deservedly so. But the conversation has not been out there about is this team actually good enough? Are they? Because remember, going into the playoffs, I know they beat the Leafs. I get that they beat the Leafs. I totally understand that they beat the Leafs. But you watch that series and you go, did Montreal beat the Leafs or did the Leafs choke? My opinion, the Leafs choked. Yes, Montreal won. I think the Leafs choke. And beyond that, Carey Price he was making AHL conditioning stints before that. And that's dangerous, right?
They only won 24 games last season out of 56. So they didn't have a great regular season either, and it was Vancouver helped get them in because they were 6-0-3 against Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So that definitely helped. That we gave them Toffoli and a playoff spot. Didn't even get
Man. Ooh, well, you ran out of time. Just ran out of time to sign him.
Yeah, I think we're being a little too insular about the RFA conversation. So I like what you said. I don't want it to be this war back and forth between Carolina and Montreal. I want Montreal to go, all right, okay, so these are fine now? These are fine now? And they turn around, and it doesn't have to be Pettersson, but anybody. That would make it nice and spicy. I was thinking on the way here, and what do you think about this? Dahlin. Because I want to get into a war with the Buffalo Sabres, because whoever they offer sheet on my team, I'm taking the picks because I know they're going to be garbage.
Dahlin is an absolutely excellent defenseman. He had a really rough first half of the season. He picked it up a lot in the second half. I think he's ready to really blow it up. I think that's hard in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. I think he would be a pretty smart pick because again, Buffalo wants more draft picks. They're clearly tearing it down before they're done the rebuild, which is weird enough. But that definitely seems to be what's going on there. So you could probably make an offer they'd have a hard time matching.
Okay, so and we won't keep you for too much longer. The reason I was paying attention to my computer is that nobody has the new division alignment with the Coyotes moving to the Central posted their website yet. Not Sportsnet, not the NHL.com. I had to go to ESPN to get it because what I want, Shannon, is your way too early division winners for each division. And I know this is completely unfair and nobody's going to hold you to this, but since you're the guy following literally every team, I want to know what you think about the Atlantic, the Metropolitan, the Central, and the Pacific.
No one's going to hold them to this.
I'm going to hold you to it a little bit.
The Pacific is relatively easy because I think it's Vegas' division to lose. If Vegas doesn't finish first, there's going to be a lot of comments about how maybe they've passed their window. Like they have to win that division. I think Colorado is still good enough to win the division in the Central, although that's going to depend on the health of Darcy Kemper. A lot of that's going to depend on Darcy Kemper's health because I'm kind of nervous about the goaltending behind him. The Metro, I kind of threw my hands in the air when it came to the Metro when I was doing my season previews, and I went with Washington as being first because they're usually excellent during the regular season. And yet I kind of wanted to put the Islanders first, but I was like, no, the Islanders are usually the playoff team, not necessarily the regular season team.
That's fair.
And then in the Atlantic, I'm going with Tampa because they've won the Cup 2 times in a row. I think they're still the best team in the division, but my dark horse, the one that could surprise everybody, could end up being Florida.
Yeah.
So
I almost passed out. I thought you were about to say Toronto. You said like Turt Tampa. I was like, what?
Yeah, I don't see Toronto being first, but I think
No.
Toronto, if they were in the Pacific, I think they'd have a shot at first place because I think the Pacific is pretty, at least, again, before we get into the season, just on paper, it doesn't look like a very strong division.
who is your dark horse team that is going to blow people away that no one's talking about?
Oh, geez.
Hershey.
I could see if Minnesota gets the whole Kaprizov thing figured out, I could see them being really, really exciting to watch and really tough to beat. I think with last season, I think there were a lot of fans who were just watching their own division, so they weren't necessarily paying too much attention to the other divisions. I think Minnesota played a really fun, exciting, up-tempo style every time Kaprizov was on the ice. It was so weird because you'd be watching a Minnesota game and you'd be bored and going to sleep like normal for a Minnesota game. And he'd be like, hey, stuff's happening. What's going on? Oh, 97's on the ice. Got it. And then he'd go off the ice and he'd be nodding off again. I think if they can find that energy on every line, I think they could really surprise some people.
Guys wearing 97, running the league.
Yeah, no kidding.
He really did. He helped change the identity of that team. Like they became this. I don't know. They were branded as exciting, but you're still saying
he made Victor Rask look really good. I was like, Victor Rask is fantastic.
He's special, and I loved watching Twitter the other day when there was that whole thing about him taking a picture in a Siberian airport. I think he's gone to visit some family, and people were like, "Well, we lost him. He's going back to the K." And I think he was just visiting family or something. Michael Russo was all over that.
Can you imagine a Russian being in Russia?
I know, weird, right? Especially a cold part of Russia. Imagine. Anyway, listen, Shannon, the hockey guy, however you know him, it's been a pleasure sort of getting to know you, and I say sort of getting to know you in that, like, I hope that we get out to Vancouver one of these days and actually get to have a beer with you, and beyond all that, congratulations on all the success on your channel. Your fans are great, you're great, and thank you for making time for us today.
Thank you very much.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out BetterHelp.com/SDP. Now, we all know life is full of stressors, and it really doesn't matter who you are or what you have. Your life is probably stressful. It can be your boss. It can be your friends. It can be your family. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to be down and out and depressed or feeling like everything's at a total loss. But if your stress is high and you're finding your temper's a bit shorter than usual, or maybe you're starting to feel the strain of your relationships, you can probably use the chance to unload that stress, get it out, and talk to somebody who's unbiased about your life, somebody who isn't going to judge you. BetterHelp is customized for just that. It's online therapy that offers video, phone, and live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to have anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's also much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised what you might gain from it. See if it's for you. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and SDP listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/SDP. That's BetterHelp.com/SDP. Attention listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? Well, if so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like they're in zero gravity when you use the best tool for the job for the leaders in male grooming. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to get that rocket in your pocket, ready for takeoff. And go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code DANGLE, DANGLE. Inside your package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold the whole solar system. The 4th generation trimmer also features cutting-edge ceramic blades to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch that can engage, an LED light, and of course, it's waterproof, and that's really important. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code DANGLE, DANGLE, at manscaped.com. For the clean trinity and beyond, your Spaceballs will thank you. So, first off, that was fun.
Oh yeah,
that was really fun.
I'm glad our war is over.
Yeah, 2 of the nicest guys. He's so wholesome. Yeah, and like 2 of the nicest guys in the world. Yeah, go to war. I'm glad that when he talked about posting that video, like telling people to knock it off. I'm glad he did that because a lot of people don't do that, and I don't know. There seems to be sometimes, and I think a lot of the bigger YouTubers do this because it's great theater. But there seems to be a lot of like, it is like, you know, where they're always, who's the, James Charles was always fighting someone?
Well,
like they're all
James Charles is the president of being problematic.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. and obviously, like, you just see it, they're all, and I feel like a lot of the time it's all theater. I don't believe most of it. But on this level, it's like, no, we're all just kind of like trying to, it's all small business, man. Like we're all trying to get in this together and put out great content and have a good time.
I hope Shannon did the video sitting in his bathtub and he sat down. He's like, guys, I have to talk to you. You have to knock it off. And it was super serious. And it was like a 2-minute video. And then the title of the video is just like one word. It's like, let's talk, or sort of 2 words. Love. Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember SNL did a parody on that a couple weeks ago when David Dobrik released his apology video?
The YouTube apology thing. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm a cool YouTuber. I have to apologize. And then it's just
who's the guy? There was a guy who
I'm sitting on the ground with my hands on my legs.
Yes.
Sad. It's so good. That is a really good skit, actually.
Oh, yeah.
We're sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, anyway, so the hockey guy, follow him on Twitter, obviously, and YouTube and that sort of thing. Although I have imagined that most people on the show who watch the show already watching him.
Right.
And if you're not, do it because he's great.
A wealth of knowledge.
Yes, totally. And I love the fact that he gets like what it's like not to do this, right? Like we all work. We're very lucky, we all worked broadcasting jobs, but we all worked jobs before this that really sucked. And except for Steve, the Zoo was is definitely his second calling.
Sometimes sucked.
But I think you can see that come out. Like I feel it here too. It's like you're just grateful to be able to do this, and I think he of anybody I've seen exudes that the most. But I mean, that's how I feel. Like the fact that the studio's in my basement's pretty cool, right? Sometimes I just come downstairs and I look and I'm like, ooh, it's still here. It's just fun.
Yeah, if you started out doing this at 18 and this is all you kind of ever knew as an adult job, you're not as grateful as you are as somebody like Shannon who did manual labor. Yeah.
Busted his ass for years. Yeah. So we have to talk about this. Canada, I'm sorry to all of our American listeners. Canada defeats the USA. Marie-Philippe Poulin. Come on, baby.
Well, and to all our American listeners, I don't feel bad. So there it is. What? Okay, they had such a run in the World Championship.
They sure did. Holy.
That is the, unless I'm missing one, which I might be missing more than one. That's MPP's third gold medal winning goal of her career. Well, 2 at the Olympics.
Yes.
The second one in OT.
Yes.
The second one in OT after erasing a multi-goal deficit.
Yep.
Like,
it's unbelievable.
And what a piss missile. Awesome.
Well, what a
rules.
limp way to get your game-winning goal. You celebrate, nobody else is celebrating because nobody realized it went in the net.
Yeah.
And then, what is it, like 30 seconds later, they play the buzzer in the arena and everybody goes off?
I've never seen the horn of doom for a gold medal winning goal. Like it went off the, hey, you actually scored horn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
I didn't know that's what it was called. I was a little confused.
I made that up.
The most I think of all, actually, it's a pretty good topic. Championships, in Toronto, we have very few of them, but one of the ones that's really well known is the 93 Jays when they hit the home run, right? But before that, the year before.
No. Do the call.
Where Joe Carter hit the home run back in 1993 to bring the World Series back to Toronto. And that's what I love about Joe Carter is he says both T's in Toronto. Love Joe. He's amazing. But, before that, it was still kind of exciting. There was like against Atlanta in 92, there was like that sort of a single that kind of dribbled and the relieving pitcher has to grab it. I think it was Dwayne Ward and had to like throw it, or is it Hankey? It doesn't matter. Throws it to first base and they get it and you see the first baseman jump up. Olerud's like in the air. Everybody's excited. But, when the Raptors won, it was like, well, is this a foul or not a foul? And it's 0.8 seconds left, and we're just kind of, okay, well, he's going to take his free throw. You remember that?
Yeah, cool. The last 10 seconds of the game took about like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they kept after going back and forth.
I remember jumping off.
Danny.
I remember jumping off the couch. Everly had been born like 10 days before. Jumping off the couch, being super excited, and I'm like, they're not going to run out the clock? Why are they going to run out the clock? Just run it out.
There's a foul, and they had to shoot the free throws.
That was the one and only time Charlie ever bit me.
Oh, because you were that excited?
Because I ran at SL and she ran at me, and that day we learned who he likes more. He protected her and bit me. Like he drew blood, and I was like, Jesus!
All right, now say it.
Charlie bit me. And I said,
oh, Charlie, that really hurt. So what a great goal. And the thing is, no one's going to remember the way that they figured out it was a goal. Everybody's going to remember the thing. And you know what? Marie-Philippe Poulin is one of those players that, and I don't know how this is possible sometimes, but there are certain players that are just gamers.
Oh,
and you have that gene or you don't. And I think that's human beings. Like some people do, fight or flight. And she is fight. And it was awesome. Like there was she had almost scored before that. And you got to think about, what's at stake here, right? You almost score a goal and it was like inches. And then you think, if I was in that position, I would have just been like, fuck this. They've already won 5 in a row. I have the 6th because I'm a Leaf fan, right?
Yes.
But she was like, no. I cheered for a team that won once in my lifetime. I'm pretty sure she's a Canadian fan growing up. Like, she realizes that it's possible. She's done it before. And there was just this, it was like a missile. It was unbelievable.
Let me ask you something, Guy. I want to poll everyone in the room. You ever snapped your ankle?
I've never snapped my ankle.
No?
No, never snapped my ankle.
You've never, that's so weird. Well, can you imagine it?
Oh.
Yeah. How would you react?
Ooh.
Bummed, right?
Terribly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Blair Turnbull.
Yeah.
In the ensuing celebration, all the Team Canada's jumping on top of each other, snaps her friggin' ankle, comes back out on the stretcher with the widest smile I've ever seen ever, because winning cures all.
Yeah.
Absolutely all. I've always been like, it's gonna happen. Every time I see